Hello and welcome to another edition of the Midnight Cable. I'm Giman.
And I'm Brandon.
And in this show we review both old and new anime. This week we review the following two anime, Dorohedoro and Fairy Gone.
Let's just start with Dorohedoro.
It's time to talk about the most insane title of this year, Dorohedoro. Because you know what they say about striking when the iron is hot, by reviewing it when everyone has already talked about it. Anyway, the series is about Giman, a man whose head turned into that of a reptile under unknown circumstances, which also cost him his memory. He's also accompanied by Nikaido, a Kyoto restaurant owner, as they search clues by sticking his mouth on people, then proceeding to butcher them after seeing what was inside of it. He's supposed to be the good guy, right? So, Brandon, what did you think of... what did you think of Dorohedoro?
Well, I read the original manga 2 and 3 years ago. So when this anime got announced and was said to be produced by MAPPA, a studio well known for making really high quality anime, I was very hyped and excited about this anime. I have really high expectation coming into it, and I like to say that this anime blew my mind. You know, I wasn't disappointed at all. It was very spicy, pure chaotic fun, and I enjoy every moment of it.
Yeah, that's actually the word that I would also be using, that it was fun, and it was definitely one of the more original anime we've seen quite some time, and not many anime I've seen, you know, can actually come close to, you know, to being this much of a blast, you know, to sit through that. I just simply enjoyed every moment of it. So there's lots of things to talk about, but I guess before we jump in, we highly recommend those who have not seen Dorohedoro yet to go and watch it before proceeding with this video. I mean, us explaining about the, you know, crazy stuff, you know, it's not the same as experiencing it, and we would really hate to take that, you know, first time experience away from you. So come back when you've, you know, seen it.
One anime later.
You still here? Okay, but let's continue. So, there's a huge cast of characters to talk about, so...
Yeah, this show is very spicy in the way that it has this really large cast of characters, but none of them are inherently defined as good guy or bad guy.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a, you know, noir type of world, you know, where everybody's looking out for themselves, and moral concepts are like that, you know, are a bit more ambiguous and like that. In this case, you know, Dorohedoro's world is more of a, you know, eat or be eaten, you know, that it's a battle for survival, and yet it's never so depressing for them. It's just an everyday life for all of them.
Yeah, I mean, death and injuries are just common occurrence to these people. It's just their normal life, you know, everyday stuff that happened to them. And one instance I remember was this guy who got his eyeball kicked out of his socket.
Yeah, and the way he reacted, you know, that instead of, you know, screaming in pain, like, does it, that's my eye, you know, like,
yeah.
It's more of an inconvenience that, oh, damn,
yeah.
now I have to go get a replacement.
Yeah, good character do questionable things, bad character do good things sometimes, and, you know, it's just very chaotic, it's fun, and that's what this show is about, you know, chaotic fun.
So one good justice that this anime does right off the bat is, you know, casting Wataru Takagi as the main character. You know, like from his roles Okuyasu and Onizuka, that he's the type of actor that is, you know, fit to play, you know, Giman.
Yeah, this happy-go-lucky man with a lizard head, whose simple goal is just to find out his lost memory by putting people inside of his throat.
And then butchering them like a pig.
Yeah. And he's not really a good hero or anything, you know. The show make it really perfectly clear that he's an anti-hero who trigger happy right up the bat. He's doesn't feel hesitate to kill innocent people just to achieve his goal.
Yeah. Though to be fair, he only kills, you know, people that he sees as enemies, namely sorcerers, but we get into that, you know, but he's not really that much different from our villains. Although, like we said, villains and heroes are, you know, do not exist in this show.
Yeah, it's kind of remind me of certain anime that I've watched. You know, the series of anime with giant robot that start with a G. I wonder what it is. Yeah, but regardless, Kaiman is also accompanied by Nikaido, who is this gyoza chap, who's also working part-time as a sorcerer hunter, joining along Kaiman and, you know, helping him recover his memory. Their friendship is the central, you know, focus of this first season.
Yeah, I mean, Nikaido is a lot of fun. That, you know, she kind of serves as a, you know, opposite to Kaiman's, you know, happy-go-lucky. That, you know, that she kind of keeps in on the leash, but at the same time, you know, their friendship, you know, feels genuine, and it kind of feels more powerful than in some other shows, because due to the fact that, you know, the show's setting, you know, is basically a crapsack world, you know, where a lot of traumatic and sad, you know, shit happens, you know, every day. Whenever, you know, some character clings onto one good thing, you know, in their life, in this case Kaiman and Nikaido's friendship, it kind of feels more powerful, that, you know, how much it means to both of them.
It felt inherently shonen in nature, but it's also at the same time very genuine, and I feel the connection between the character here, and how, you know, I actually feels emotion for them when they, you know, their friendship is put into a test because of this, you know, central conflict that is, you know, Nikaido's true nature and what she is.
Yeah, which of course brings them into conflict with, you know, En and his family. En is this, you know, sort of an anti-villain, a mafia boss, you know, who is owns most of the, you know, sorcerer's world businesses, if not all of them, and, you know, has a family of enforcers to do his bidding, you know, as he, you know, looks for, you know, a candidate to be his, you know, partner in crime.
Yeah, and then their member of the family consists of very unique and also, you know, diverse cast of character. You have, you know, Shin, who is this, you know, very violent but also honorable character who fight for the weak.
And Noi, a rare depiction of a, you know, female character, you know, with a, you know, physique to match, but she also serves as an opposite to, you know, to Shin's, you know, no-nonsense attitude, with her a bit optimistic and also a bit of a cuckoo lander type of attitude.
And then you also have Fujita, who is the straight man of the group, who's also, you know, what would be like us if we were to live in that, you know, chaotic world. You know, we react to these insane things naturally.
Yeah, that he's basically like the average man, you know, with no power to speak of. Like he's the Jerry of their world. But thankfully he's not alone, you know, since he also has the, you know, the comic relief and the, you know, sort of comedy of the show, you know, Ebisu, who shines not even when she's not on the screen, when she's on the background doing some random shit and, you know, all other fun shenanigans.
I mean, she can be funny at times, but then at the same time, you know, she can also be really emotional and serious when the anime call for it, and I really like her relationship with Fujita. This anime has a lot of, you know, character, and, you know, the depiction of their relationship is, you know, very genuine and fun to watch. And I also like the design of the female character in this anime. You know, they're strong. They look independent, you know, powerful.
Hey, don't get so all progressive on me, don't you?
Yeah, but, you know, it makes you wanna
Give your meat a good old rub.
You know, like I said, you know.
Oh, you mean goza? Don't you mean goza, not meat?
Yeah, you know, you wanna get snoo to death by these, you know, powerful female.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, the sandwich gyoza. So each episode is, you know, sort of a standalone story on their own, which is, and the show balances out, you know, between, you know, many characters. That Kaiman is not the central focus on each episode, but even so, you know, each episode connects to the next one, setting up, you know, the plot for the next, you know, so none of the episodes, you know, essentially even feel like filler, and all of them, you know, felt like they had some purpose on, you know, expanding, you know, the lore, the characters, and other things about the show in general. So it still manages to have this creeping main plot that we can follow.
It's focused on all the character almost nearly equally, and they, you know, showcase of their individual backstory and what do they do in their spare time, just like they are living normally in such world, and we see how the story unfolds from their own unique perspective. It has this really
Special.
chaotic balance of both serious and comedic writing.
Yeah, and also sometimes the important things are happening, but at the same time it is accompanied by some, really weird event that, that are that kind of makes it, weird to think that, are we supposed to take this seriously or laugh, like that one episode where they play baseball, or when there is that pie eating and making contest, but at the same time, like you said, the chaotic balance of, this, really dark humor and, when the show wants to be serious, it kind of juggles it flawlessly, and and I have rarely seen this, being performed so well.
The comedy didn't overstate its welcome, and it's actually make the show more enjoyable. One thing that I really like is how the worlds look in this anime. It's really spicy. It's this unique mix of post-apocalyptic looks and a fantasy world.
Yeah, it kind of feels like as if, Fallout with its, dark, depressing tone with also really dark comedy met Lord of the Rings. And I mentioned the latter due to the fact that it's like a separate world of our own, and it has no connection to us. And similar to this, Dorohedoro's world, is a world of its own, and isn't anything like that this is like our future or this is our past, that that it has its own universe set of rules and people.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it has the rules that people follow, and the magic that the sorcerer use in this anime is very unique in the way of their execution and their explanation of how they function. It's very logical, and it's known universally by any character.
And yet it's not over-explained, unlike in some, that they keep it simple and easy to understand while it doesn't distract from the main plot, that it's just casually mentioned, as the story naturally, goes through.
Yeah, and each episode reveal more about the lore, character dynamic, character relationship, backstory, and their connection to the world, and the history of the world. And it also has this unique social commentary where racial division between the sorcerer and the people from the hole, where people from the hole are suffering from the byproducts of the sorcerer magic, and there's this tiny hint as well of racism in the sorcerer world, where people from the Ant family are high-ranking magicians, and then they control all the power, and then there are these weaker sorcerer who can't do anything, who has to force to use drugs, etc., to maintain their power. It's very unique, but at the same time, the show doesn't force these exposition onto us. It just came naturally as the event of the story unfold.
Yeah, it might be very well be one of the most unique settings to any adult anime we've seen.
I would like to say that in comparison to the original manga that I read, the atmosphere and tone of the world is vastly different in this anime adaptation. In the original manga, everything is dark, muddy, and sloppy mess, filled with depressions and death and void of life. The tone of the anime is vastly different. It has color, it has vibrancy, and it's overall more happier than the original manga.
So is that a good or a bad thing, or does it work simply for this anime?
Well, I mean, I love the creative direction that they choose to go. I mean, not every anime has to be depressing. One thing I do not like about this anime adaptation, as comparing to the manga, is that there was a huge lack of nudity and violence that exists in the manga, mostly because of censorship. I mean, in the original manga, it's very violent and really gross, So you have some panel of the manga where it just looks so gross that you just want to puke. But here in the anime, the violence is just implied.
Yeah, but I think, it actually works to its advantage. I mean, compared to some of the other more notorious cases of censorship, such as, Terraformers and JoJo, I think the angle that they went with, how they implied some of the more, notorious scenes of the original manga, where they show just enough that we get what's going on, but not enough that we see it in full display. But I think it actually works well, since it kind of gives this more of a haunting image, since we can only imagine that. For example, that scene, where guy's, hand gets cut off and it's, clings to a doorknob, but we don't see, his arm from below, only that it's wobbles like that. That, because while this series is obviously, one of those, gore festa like that, I do like this, approach of, imply, don't tell, because it kind of gives this more horrifying image inside your head that you imagine yourself.
Well, it's up to each person's opinion and how they enjoy it. For me personally, I just doesn't like the censorship of both the nudity and violence, because that's what makes the original manga so unique and
Bit special.
Between the crazy fun that this series provides, the close second that I might actually enjoy just as much is the music itself.
Yeah, I mean, I really love the soundtrack of this anime. It's one of the best I've heard this year. I mean, I am familiar with the band behind it, No Name. They're known for their wide vocal range and unique ability to mix different genre of music together. And overall, I feel like, they did make a really good and at the same time fun soundtrack that's full of bangers that we can listen to.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the first thing to talk about when it comes to music is obviously the opening. I mean, it's so glorious that what can we really say about it that that hasn't already been said.
Like, I mean, it has a good balance of both being crazy and fun with its visual, but at the same time, it's also has a lot of foreshadowing for the plot without making it too revealing. It's just subtle.
Yeah, subtle is the right word, but at the same time, it has its own unique style that instead of trying to emulate like what typical anime openings do, it's like it just does its own thing, that it lives this is its own world, that it doesn't it lives in the madness that it resides in.
Yeah, and the one thing that is a hallmark of a good anime is that it has not one, not two, not three, but 6 different unique endings.
Yeah.
All come with their own songs and visuals, and every single one is a joy to listen and watch.
Yeah, we had a hard time of coming up deciding what was our favorite, but I think it definitely was the third one. I mean, there's just something about it that is so nostalgic, charming, and so freaking hilarious. I mean, Doom was my favorite game during my childhood. So seeing the studio capturing that same gameplay and aesthetics of it, it just felt so real.
Yeah, it feels so close to home, and the music and the good music is also accentuate the visual. I also think that's one of my favorite ending song as well. And not to mention about the background music, it's also very good. I mean, it has this great combination of heavy metal. You can also have these wacky comedy songs.
And smooth jazz occasionally.
And also you have your, techno, hip hops. It's so diverse and unique. It's like one thing we say about this anime is that, it's fun and chaotic.
Yeah, we've repeated that so many times already.
Yeah. I mean, that's the focus of this anime. Just to make the viewer who watch it enjoy every single moment of it.
Yeah. So I guess if there's some things that we have to complain about, it is the animation. And well, what did you think, Brandon?
I mean, okay, I'm not a really huge fan of 3D animation in anime. Executed right, it can look really amazing. You're looking at your UFO table, your Kyoto animations. But executed wrong, you get shit like Overlord Season 3.
Oh, Berserk.
Yeah, those lowest common nominator for 3D animations. And I think for the most part, this anime balance out the bad 3D animation with its very, good 2D animation, and it doesn't bother me too much besides some certain jankiness or some, lacky action scenes, especially in the last 2 episodes.
Yeah, to be honest, it never really bothered me that much. I mean, I would be lying if I said that I didn't notice some of the more, jarring parts or some that look a bit clumsy. But since I was having such a blast, witnessing all the events, with each episode, that the sense of fun and joy that I had, just made me, forgive it. And and I kind of see, the bad animation. Well, I say bad in quotes. More of a nitpick rather than actual complaint on my part, at least.
Yeah, for the most part, I would also like to say that it's kind of like a nitpick for me, that I don't really like the 3D animation, because I do enjoy the visual of this anime so much. I believe that it captured the original manga arc faithfully. Certain scene I don't like because of the lack of gore, because of the censorship. But overall, I feel like the studio behind this anime, Mappa, has put a lot of passion and effort in making such an enjoyable anime to watch. Like, it has so beautiful visuals, full with Easter egg that you can find.
Which we will cover in our upcoming bonus video coming very soon. Link in the description.
And also on the screen.
So, I know we sound like a broken record, but if there's one word that we have to describe what this anime is, it would be fun. But I think that word is actually a huge achievement that we don't often say about anime, because compared to many animes we've seen, even the great ones, even our favorites, they can sometimes feel like a chore. Most of it is because they have not so great episodes, they are very long, and some are boring parts, and of course that some need a bit more work to get into. But this is such a simple anime to approach, and you don't need to to invest yourself that much, that it's just easy to see that you just take a seat in the car and somebody else drives you and you experience the views. And I cannot state enough how much of a blast it was to see in one go.
Yeah, I mean, anime is escapism. You watch anime to enjoy yourself. You watch anime to have fun. In such a year and such an era where all type of other media like video game, musics, and movies has to have some sort of a political message in them. You got these rare anime like this that is just pure chaotic fun without any sort of those thing attached. And that's why that makes this anime so enjoyable. That's why we love anime. We watch them to have fun, and I think this anime is the embodiment of fun. It's just so like you said, a huge blast to watch through.
Yeah, boy.
If only the same thing can be said about the other anime we watched.
Ooh.
Now I know what you're thinking. What exactly did you expect when you decided to watch Fairy Con? Well, after the boredom we experienced in the last episode, hint, hint, we decided to test our theory of how even really bad anime can stimulate us in some way and be more entertaining because of it. Was that a successful experiment? Well, it was an anime. It had a plot, characters, and an European setting, and that's pretty much all I can say about it. But the question is it worse than Inspector? Well, that's a bit complicated, so let's start from the top. So Brandon, I give you a bit of a challenge. Could you try to describe what the plot of this anime was about?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't even remember half of what happened in the plot. It has such a very generic, this girl meet guy plot. Girls find out she has, some power, and then, girl trying to rekindle her friendship with her friends who became an enemy. It's such generic, anime of the season plot. I don't know what's the plot trying to achieve here.
Well, the problem is it doesn't achieve anything.
Yes, and it has. It's at the same time, it's also attempt of world building and adding tons of exposition that I don't really care about. The only memorable things I really remember was that one of the nation that was mentioned in the world building was called Timon.
Yeah, we were just waiting any moment that is there gonna be, Pumbaa as a neighboring nation or something like that. But
Yeah.
sadly, there wasn't.
Yeah. I also don't remember any of the character name beside the main girl Maria and
Marlia, yeah.
yeah, and the protagonist Free Underbar, AG main character names.
Yeah, I forgot how stupid his name was.
Yeah, and other than that, I don't even remember half of the cast, or even any of the villains or bad character. It's just I don't know what to explain. The good thing I think about this anime is the music. I mean, obviously, just like Dorohedoro, the band behind the music, No Name, is very famous for their wide vocal range and unique genre of music mixing. And I think for the most part, the music is very well done in this anime.
Yeah, but that's also the problem. The music is too good for this, and not to mention, I don't think the opening song and any song in general in this kind of fits on the mood that I'm kind of confused at times that what exactly is the tone that this show is actually trying to do. I mean, this music could very well work in any other anime, but here it feels like a talent is wasted.
Yeah. Overall, I don't understand for which audience is this anime aimed for. It felt so formulaic and feel like factory made. PA work is well known for their crappy anime of the season like this. So they just attempt to throw every single known cliche into the mix and try to make an anime out of it. It's no coincidence that JoJo Part 5 is also airing at the same time as this anime, and this anime also has this very generic JoJo rip-off mechanic.
Or persona. I mean, at least they use it like a persona.
Yeah, like they have this very unoriginal plot and non-memorable character, and it's just overall a very terrible show to watch.
I mean, what else sucks about this show besides everything? Oh, the animation, what can I even say about it? It's fucking awful beyond description, and I guess the worst example of that are the actual character models. I mean, when characters are shown emotion, whether it's neutral, sad, angry, and like that, the expressions change so much and look so much alike that if it wasn't for the script, the line delivery, and the dialogue, I wouldn't have actually been able to tell apart what the characters were conveying through their faces. And it's like, did any of the staff who made this even have any passion for this at all?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, PA work is an anime factory that churn out shit like this seasonally. So character looks disproportionate sometimes. Character model just look so off so often, and the only time where they actually look good is close-up shot, and then again, just like you said, it just doesn't even look that good.
Not to mention that anyone who is not a main character doesn't look like a human being. I mean, in fact, they look like they're from the cast of a hentai due to the fact that they have no eyes or mouth to speak of.
Yeah. And not to mention the very, very bad CGI model for the fairy. I mean, goddamn, I complain a little bit about how jarring the 3D animation looks in Dorohedoro, but I mean, the 3D animation and the CGI in this make Berserk or, Overlord Season 3 look like a masterpiece in comparison. I mean, God, it looks so bad.
No, let's not go that far, but I do admit, it does make, some of the jarring things, in Dorohedoro look like the works of a fucking Picasso.
Yeah. I mean, also at the same time, let's talk about the character. The show introduced way too many characters, and their names are so fucking complicated. It's like I'm watching a Gundam show where everyone has this really long ass name, and then there are tons of these, you know, unique concepts like, you know, name of nation, name of a faction.
Except those are even easier to remember than the ones in this show, because at least those characters were at least somewhat memorable.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, they introduced this so many characters, but they at the same time they doesn't do anything with them. Like they introduced this rival character for the main girl. You know, this girl called Veronica. She's, you know, this badass, you know, mercenary with a fairy, and you know, there seem to be a hint of a backstory and relation with the main girl.
Which will probably pay up in season 2, but not here.
Yeah, but not here, not in this season. Then there's also that, you know, other, you know, rival for the main character, you know, the other edgy guy, you know.
But who doesn't also pay up in terms of plot at all.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, they're building up for season 2, which presumably won't do that much, you know, with these characters.
Well, like we mentioned, this show does have attempts at world building, but it completely falls flat on its face, and that's because the narrative, you know, is placed really awkwardly in at the beginning and at the end of the episodes, and even when it appears in somewhere in the middle, the information that is, you know, given, you know, is so broad or so minuscule that the things that actually should matter to the plot actually don't exist there. So we are just, you know, left confused. Not to mention that the narrative and names that even have to be displayed by, you know, text, you know, on the screen, they pass by so quickly, like they are like on screen in 1 second, and you know, and you have no idea, you know, what any of these nations, the characters, the concept names are, you know, unless you read from the Wikipedia entry.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and also Dorohedoro, like we said, established rule for the world that they live in. In this fairy gone world, there is no rule to speak up. You know, it's rules at the same time are, you know, established, but also feel very inconsistent with each other. Like they said that fairy can only be damaged by other fairy.
Or those fairy weapons.
Or fairy weapons. But then again, the show also shows us that ordinary weapons like gun and sword can also damage them as well.
Or is that just them acting, you know? I mean, considering the fact that, you know, one of their arm gets their arm cut off, you know, they just react with it, you know, ow, that hurts, as if he was hit by a pellet.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's no consistency.
Yeah, I mean, look at the commentary. Like, look at the anime that this anime try to rip off from. You know, you have your Persona, you have your JoJo Bizarre Adventure. They have established rule for their, you know, projected ghost monster that came out from the character. And this show doesn't have such a rule. It just feel like, you know, what is going on?
As for the main cast itself, like we mentioned, they're really forgettable. But I wouldn't say that they have no personality to speak of, like Kuro from Inspector, for instance. And they do have some aspects of a personality, such as the main characters, one of them who is a pacifist, who hates violence, and a big-hearted guy, you know, who is compassionate towards everyone. And of course the supporting cast, who have, you know, a Futaba, a meek girl,
yeah,
and a perverted comic relief guy,
yeah,
the big tough guy who sacrifices himself. Oh, spoilers!
not that people care.
Yeah, no, I mean, how many have even seen this show? Anyway, they do have their moments. I mean, they're not particularly good moments, but some of the, you know, backstories they are briefly given, or the fights they're given, they're stimulating enough that I wouldn't say that they feel empty or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just not really good.
I mean, I agree with you. There is an attempt of having character personality, and at the same time, there is some sort of a semblance of a character chemistry to these characters. I feel like, you know, especially for the main girl, you know, Maria, she has conflict and backstory, you know, and it's make her like, well, I would say more unique than Kuro from Inspector. But at the same time, she's also very generic, you know, anime protagonist girl.
Yeah, and her character arc throughout this season, you know, is something that we have seen a million times before, and the conclusion that she comes to is, you know, so bland, so nothing, you know, mind blown or anything, that I could have just said that there's no place like home.
Yeah.
Like what what happening with the Wizard of Oz. I mean, that's how insignificant her character arc through this season is. And I hate to mention this, but I don't know how well the season 2 will establish any of these, because I feel like nothing real was even established on this season.
Yeah.
Other than fairies, main characters, and that's it.
I mean, I do like feel intrigue with some character. Like, I mean, I do see that they are potential, but at the same time, the show is just too bland and boring for me to even care. I mean, I did enjoy it more than Inspector. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, the character at least give me some, motivation to, watch and, want to know how their story concluded.
Though there was no conclusion. In fact, that's also one of the problems of this show in a nutshell. There's no conclusion to everything. In fact, when I said that, fights at least stimulate us, but what they don't stimulate us is giving us satisfaction. I mean, what is the most important thing, a fight must have? A conclusion. Well, most of the fights don't really have a conclusion per se, rather than the fact that they just stop, or the other party just, leaves, and doesn't conclude properly. In fact, most of them are just, okay, I'm bored now. See ya.
It's just like, it's just fight. It's just like mostly showcase of fairy power and oh my god, it's cool sword action, and like you said, there is no clear conclusion, and there is like, I would excuse this anime. Like, I mean, it has potential to have really great fight if they would just, rip off JoJo completely, make a mindless anime with just these action and fight scene. You don't even need to have these exposition or attempt to world building. You just have a mindless action anime with this, JoJo and, Persona rips off, fight scene, and it actually will be more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, I mean, considering that this show already ripped those off, you'd think that they would just go all the way, but no, instead it tries to create something original, just fails miserably.
Yeah,
that they could have just made a, sort of a B, grade anime of the season that at least would have brought some audience to it, but instead it just managed to alienate them completely.
It attempt to also showcase complex politics and moral ambiguity to the main villains, but then they just throw it all away at to the window at the last 4 episodes by having that villain just be a side villain, and then having a random mustache twirling villain be the main stage. He's just walking there blazing, toward these, gunshots without, flinching, and just whistling while the background music is playing. Like, okay, I guess it's cool.
Yeah, but it doesn't make any sense. I mean, those soldiers' aim is worse than stormtroopers, and there's not even given any logical reason why they miss, other than the fact that they're just plain incompetent.
Yeah, I mean, they try to establish that the villain is just so overwhelmingly, scary so that they miss their aim, or they forgot how to shoot.
Yeah, but that still doesn't make any sense. So is there anything that we like? Well, I hate to admit it, but the episode 8 actually has the only genuinely good attempt at, creating an interesting commentary, which is the nature of war and the morals that are different during eras of war and peace, and how cycle of revenge just leads to unnecessary bloodshed and and unnecessary hatred, but it still feels so unfulfilling.
Yeah, I mean, it does attempt to have some sort of wars never change, narrative. Even the mustache trolling bad guy that we mentioned about, his whole act is just that he loves to have war and fighting so much that he wants to cause a war just to really, experience all of those feelings again. I mean...
Yeah, sorry, but that was already done better in Helsing with Major,
Yeah, I mean, such a more complex and engaging character to watch instead of this, well, I wouldn't say plank of wood, but,
Yeah, that title is already reserved to Kuro.
Yeah, but, you know what we means, it's just, there's a lot of missed opportunity in this anime.
I mean, we've said that the writing of this show is stupid, but it took us time until we actually realized that, how dumb this show really is. And I think the point we reached, was at the beginning of I think it was episode 6 or 7, where there is an exposition about the state of the world, which, like we said, fails badly at, and about the 5 dukes and how 3 of them ended up being executed for the actions that they took. And one of the dukes, fate, I kid you not, is basically summed up like this, word by word. He was so outraged of being suspected of starting a rebellion that he decided to rebel.
Like, what the
Fun.
Anyway, back to topics. Why we did,
Fun.
on the fight scene and the animation a whole lot, but like we said, we oftentimes feel that they were stimulating. I mean, they had a sense of urgency, unlike that boring, non-state battle in Inspector. So it's a plus, I guess.
Yeah, at least it stimulated us. Things were happening.
Yeah, and character has high stake. They might die, unlike some certain character in Inspector.
In all technical aspects, Fairy Gun is a far worse anime than Inspector ever was. I mean, the latter at least had some care and thought put into it when making it, but Fairy Gun is just so incomprehensible that I cannot even think of, what the people behind it were actually thinking when producing it.
Yeah, there was an overly lack of passion. I mean, with Inspector, I can see that they have care put into the visuals, at least somewhat care put into the animation and the character and the comedy and the, so somehow yokai looks,
And there is an overall narrative that at least has a conclusion to it.
Yeah, of course. And, I mean, despite all that, however, after such boring and non-stimulate experience from watching Inspector, I still find that, Fairy Gun, the badness from Fairy Gun didn't affect us that much. We did, subjectively, in my own opinion, I feel like, I enjoy this anime more than Inspector.
Which I'm not entirely sure whether, that's a good or a bad thing. In fact, it kind of makes me afraid of the fact that maybe we experience something so bad that no other badness is worse than, Inspector. We definitely wouldn't recommend it for any reason other than if you're looking for a, bad TV night, then I guess this is your choice. But will we actually review season 2 in case all those plot threads and characters story arcs will be given a satisfying conclusion? Possibly. Maybe when Dorohedoro season 2 comes along. Wink wink.
So in conclusion, please go watch Dorohedoro. It's worth it. We couldn't state it enough how fun and chaotic it is. And
stay far away from Fairy Gun. Well, that's it for this episode of Midnight Cable. I'm Giman.
And I'm Brandon.
And we'll see you all next time.
In another edition of
The Midnight Cable.
So what happened to your face?
Yeah, boy.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click for the bell icon for notifications for future videos. Also, if you want to hear updates for other content and fun stuff, click the icons on the screen. I'm Giman, and I'll see you all next time.